Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are actor Marvin Gay and filmmaker Desmond Nakano. Actor, not the singer, Marvin Gay was born and raised in Norfolk, Virginia. He attended Lincoln University, Norfolk State, and the University of Maryland, where he majored in political science and minored in business. It seems obvious that with studies like poli-sci and business, you weren't headed for the stage, were you?
Not at all. I was headed for the White House.
Oh, you were? What about acting?
Barack might beat me there, right?
Had you ever acted?
In high school and college, I did some acting, leading man in drama club plays and festival plays.
So you did have a little experience other than business, only business.
Yes.
But what were you going to do when you got out of college?
Well, I was going to become a lawyer, go into politics, and become the first African-American president of the United States.
Well, you let us down. You went on the stage instead.
There's still hope.
But you were working, weren't you, in a regular business?
Exactly. I went into financial services with a, I won't call the name, but a large financial services company in America and Canada.
And for a long time?
33 years.
Well, were you acting? Were you taking acting lessons? What were you doing?
You know, I went into acting at age 50 professionally.
That's what's so amazing, because people don't think that they can have a second career.
Yeah, yeah. And my daughter says, one of my friends said to me, it takes somebody like your dad to go into acting at that age.
Yeah, really?
And she said she told her friend, my dad's been acting all of his life. He just started getting paid for it.
Oh, yeah, right, right.
But I stumbled into it. I didn't go looking for it. It wasn't something that I was going to pursue. I just stumbled into it while dealing with my mistress, tennis.
Oh, you were playing tennis? Playing
tennis. And a buddy on the team said he's had a friend who did background casting and wanted to know if anybody there wanted to be in a movie. They needed some more African-American men. And I said, well, hey, you know, who wouldn't want to be in a movie? What do you got to do? Show up at this church tomorrow with a pencil and the picture, Polaroid would do. So I did that, and there were about 300 or 400 people there, and I made the cut for 25. Ended up in contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So did that give you, like, the desire to move on?
Oh, to see how movies are made, you know, how they make this fiction a reality and bring it all about. The bug got me. I had 2 days on that film at $57.50 for 12 hours.
I thought you were going to say at 57 years old.
No, $5.70 minimum wage in Washington, D.C.
Oh, you were living in Washington?
I was living in Maryland, right outside of Washington.
Oh, I see.
Had been there for, at that time, about 29 years. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And it was the coldest day of my life out there on the steps of the old Treasury building, making that movie, but it was just fascinating to see how they do it. And so I said, you know, this is interesting. Then about a month later, I heard a cattle call on the radio, local radio station, to show up, and I said, let me go check that out. So I went there, and this woman, out of all these thousands of people in the hotel lobby there trying to get in this movie, she says, I'm Judith Boulay, and I'm National Casting Director for Warner Brothers. And I did Contact. Were any of you in Contact? So about 12 of us raised our hands.
Oh, wow.
She pulled us out of line, put a red check on our card, said, don't worry, you're in. So there I was in Deep Impact.
So that was your break?
That was my break.
It actually was your break, right?
Yeah.
So did you give up your day job, which was a real job?
I didn't give it up. I didn't give it up.
Have you ever given it up?
I retired in 2004 from,
so you
from the
kept
insurance business.
You
Yeah.
stayed in the insurance business,
Yeah.
and like many actors, instead of waiting tables, you were still doing insurance, right?
That's right. Now I wait tables.
Did your name, Marvin Gay, hamper your casting ability, or did it help?
The jury's still out on that.
But you did some commercials.
I did national commercial, a regional commercial, and a few local ones down in South Florida. I got the midlife crazies after I did these two things, and I felt like I wanted to take another direction, so I just up and moved 1,000 miles away to South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and that's where I really honed my craft and joined the union. Got really interested in it.
Did you start taking acting lessons then?
I took a few classes, yes, worked in the SAG Conservatory.
But one of the things we talked about before, Marvin, when we were talking about all the different schools you had attended, you talked about career counseling, because maybe they would have said you should have been an actor at that point.
Yes.
What were your thoughts about that?
Counseling, good counseling is so important for young people and anybody, because I think with what's coming out now, which is, to me, it's kind of natural. I mean, I've you know, when you go 8, 10 appointments a week in the insurance business, getting yourself ready, you really go on stage in someone's home or office each time, and it's a bit of acting. But so I must have had some feel for that. But nobody in counseling said, you should move in this direction. I see something in you. And
but how do people know that? Do you think counselors really can see that?
No, I don't.
No, that's it. Yeah.
You know, I think there are a lot of counselors who just have the job.
Yeah.
And they're not really honing in on what's this person's abilities, what are their talents, and pushing them toward that. We're being pushed towards safety, a job, a paycheck.
Right. I think that's what it all turns out to be. And I know many people in the arts say, oh, my parents wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer or this, but I'm so happy being in the arts.
Exactly.
So it's hard on a counselor because it's like a parent, I guess, in a way.
Right.
Well, you did take your lessons, and you got on the stage. You were in Awakening, which was
The Awakening, right.
What was that about?
It's a play, William A. Parker, out of Sacramento, California. I just met him, a young man that I figure will take August Wilson's place in theater.
What's his name?
William A. Parker.
Okay.
And Bill wrote this play about a young African-American who goes to college, gets an education, gets married, comes back home to his homestead, takes over the home, and starts a business in it, a barber shop in the neighborhood.
Barber shop is like, I don't know what it is. It's like the main kind of story that are being told now. I interviewed Bless Jijaja, and he wrote a play called Barber Dashers, and Ted Lange was in it. And it's really great because it gives African Americans a way to tell their stories, because that's where everything goes on.
It's a community center.
In the exactly. And there was something at the Pasadena Playhouse also that was about barbershops, about the barbers telling their stories. And this, for a young person going to school, that Mr. Parker wrote, is kind of different.
Well, it's about a young man going back in the neighborhood to give something back instead of deserting the neighborhood, because the neighborhood, as most neighborhoods across America, was in decay. So he went back there and started his business there with his family and tried to revive it.
Did you play one of the barbers?
I played the old school barber.
The old school. See, that's a really great mix, isn't it? Yeah. And then you were in this in a video that Chris Rock. I thought Chris Rock was in it, but what did he do? He directed it.
He was in it too. He directed it. He produced it with Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right. That was very bizarre. I remember that.
I managed to be a featured background person in that as a homeless trumpet player.
Oh, that's right. That was great. And trumpet playing, music. Tell us a couple of Marvin Gaye stories, because it's almost time for our end here.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's been a charmed life, I like to say. I was, before the insurance business, I was in sales, a hair company based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Staying in a hotel there from Maryland. They brought me to the headquarters for a regional meeting, and I went back to my room, and my key didn't work. And so I went to the desk, and I said, what's wrong? My key doesn't work. Oh, Mr. Gay, we had to change your room. We had to change the lock. There's a church group here, and a young group of gospel singers heard Marvin Gay was in the hotel, and they broke the door down.
Oh, you're kidding. Does that happen to you a lot?
Well,
Marvin Gay?
I drank free on Piedmont Airlines. I've had dinner at many restaurants.
People don't realize.
And I've had to sign napkins.
Is that right?
I've had to.
People don't realize Marvin Gaye died how many years ago?
Well, he was alive back then.
Oh, he was alive when you were.
Back then,
oh,
yes.
I see.
During these periods.
Oh.
There are quite a few people who still don't know that he's dead.
That's right.
Because they play his music and they never say the late Marvin Gaye, because his music is timeless.
And it lives.
It lives.
And that's right. And so Marvin Gaye is living, and you're going to have to sign napkins the rest of the time.
And I've got a sneaky suspicion, Joan, that there's a relationship.
Oh, do you? Can you sing?
I can sing, yes.
So we're going to get you dancing and getting you back into that group, men's group, in the barbershop.
In the barbershop. In the barbershop. Yeah. Ain't Misbehavin' did Fats Waller in that musical play in Tamarack, Florida.
And you're doing some work at the Odyssey Theater, which we love.
The Odyssey Theater.
We love the Odyssey.
Understudying and working with great guys like Charlie Robinson from Night Court and Henry Sanders from Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. A great cast from the Actors Studio. I mean, it's really an honor.
Yeah, it's
because
great.
I'm not from the Actors Studio, but everybody else is.
You can learn so much.
And I can learn so much from just being there.
Well, I thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's been a ball.
Thank you for watching this part of the show. We'll be right back with filmmaker Desmond Nakano.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Director-writer Desmond Nakano was born and raised in Los Angeles. He won the prestigious Samuel Goldwyn Award for writing when he was studying literature and film at UCLA. While still a student there, he was mentored by Paul Schrader, which down the line, as he became a professional, must have helped him adapt the Hubert Selby Last Exit. Did that give you some kind of lead into knowing people and working with Schrader?
Well, I think that Schrader was one of the filmmakers who came out of the 70s, that whole generation where they were making very powerful, I mean, Schrader wrote the Scorsese movies, right. Raging Bull, Taxi Driver. So that certainly encouraged me to really push and push the limits of what could be done at that time. And Hubert Selby's book, Last Exit, was a classic book.
Did you ever take classes from him?
From who?
Hubert Selby.
No. I know he taught at SC. Yeah.
I interviewed him while he was teaching that master class there. Yeah, because I thought he was brilliant, so tough.
Yeah, the thing about I never met him until after I'd written the script.
Done it, yeah.
But at the time I was doing the movie, I was afraid to meet him because I thought, having read his books, that he would be completely out of his mind.
I know, but he's not.
And he was the sweetest, simple soul.
I know.
But it was like a guy who had been through so much that he came out the other end almost a purified being.
Maybe that's the way to look at it, because I felt the same way. You also wrote, you co-wrote the Selby script.
I did the adaptation.
The adaptation, and then you co-wrote what was it? American Me with Eddie Olmos.
Yeah, American Me was the story of the Mexican Mafia, and it was based on the real history of the Mexican Mafia. I was the co-writer of that, and that again was a pretty tough, very realistic movie.
How did that come about?
You know, they had been trying to make the movie for a long time. It was originally written for Al Pacino. and it didn't get made for a very long time. Eddie almost tried to do a version of the script, and when they came to me, they were trying to change it, and it was a pretty comprehensive view of the Mexican Mafia.
It was very tough. They were probably afraid to get it on the screen.
Yeah, but I mean, I think one of the things, if you do subject matter like that, if you're going to do it, you should really do it.
Well, you did it, and then you left it and you went into directing. How did directing come about? Was it a natural outgrowth of your writing?
It was only because when you write something, you have a way of envisioning it, and it always comes out so very different. And I did a movie called White Man's Burden that I was fortunate enough to find the right people for it.
Well, you had really good people in these movies. I mean, John Travolta.
Yeah, well, at that time, it was produced by Lawrence Bender, and Lawrence had just done Pulp Fiction with John. So actually, Lawrence gave the script to Quentin Tarantino, and Quentin liked the script and gave it to John Travolta, and that's how we got John.
That's how you did it. And then, do you like directing better than?
Well, they're so different. They're so different that writing's all in the head, and directing is dealing with so many other people.
But you're like not really pushy. You're kind of laid back.
Not when I'm directing.
Do you have to be pushy to be a director?
The part I like about directing is the collaborative part. There's so much of it that is being a traffic cop, and that part is kind of boring to me, the bureaucratic parts of it. But the creative process, being able to be a writer-director to change things as you're going is great.
So as you were garnering all these writing awards, did you ever think that you'd be in directing or be such a big part of the film world?
I don't know that I'm a big part of the film world.
I think you are.
I think the natural transition is to try to control your material. So
is that the?
Yeah, especially if it's personal material. If it's something that really means something to you, to be able to have the creative control, you have to direct it.
Which is leading us into your American Pastime. Is there any kind of show business in your family? I mean, you lived out here.
I'm from Los Angeles, and my father was a singer and an actor, which is very unusual. I'm Japanese American, so for the Japanese American community, it's very unusual. But he had been an actor and a singer, and so when I decided, I was a musician originally.
Oh, you were.
When I went into writing, it was almost a step up. So usually,
so he was happy about that.
Yeah, because all musicians are drug addicts, and all writers are alcoholics. So it's a little better.
Exactly. That was the stereotype.
Yeah, that was
right?
a step up.
That's what your father was thinking. What about sports? Were they involved in sports? No?
Not really.
Not really. Oh, so that was your own fiction. Okay, that was your own imagination, American Pastime. Was it a true story?
No, it was American Pastime came to me, the producer, Barry Rosenbush, who just had a phenomenal success with High School Musical.
We love
Barry. Completely
we love
different.
Barry.
But Barry had seen an article, a book, written by Kerry Nakagawa about the history of Japanese people in baseball. And he came to me saying, would you be interested in this? And I wasn't interested in baseball per se. But when the idea came about to perhaps set it in the camps, the internment camps in World War II, 120,000 Japanese, two-thirds of whom Japanese descended people, two-thirds of whom were American citizens, were taken from their homes and put into internment camps in the middle of the country, in the desert, out nowhere.
Did you know about that from your family? Had you heard about it?
Well, my parents and their entire families had all been put into them.
So you had heard about it, because a lot of Japanese Americans don't even know about it. A lot of Americans don't know about it.
Yeah, it's taught minimally.
Yeah.
And that was, I had always wanted to write about that, but you know, I make movies that I didn't want to make a tiny movie that was inaccessible, and I didn't want to make a documentary or
all right, so it's not a documentary.
Yeah, or something that's too didactic. I wanted to make a real movie. So I thought that this was a good platform because it's a sports movie, and the American pastime
Right.
is baseball.
So sports, music, you brought music into it.
The other thing was jazz, because
Yeah.
a lot of the people in my family are musicians, and you know, at that time in the 40s, it was all baseball and jazz. So that's the center of the movie.
That's right, and that's what comes across. And so well, the costuming is so perfect, of course, and it fits. You think about it as the jazz era when you see the film. The film is so well done. Where did you do it on location?
We shot in Utah. It's set at the Topaz camp, which is in Utah, and we shot about an hour away from it. And we actually constructed barracks that were based on the original blueprints of the real barracks.
How'd you find those?
It's all government. The government did all of it.
It's all there. And so it wasn't a big budget film.
No, it was $4 million, which is very modest for this level movie because it's not a tiny movie.
No, and you were able to do all this building of your sets and the costuming and your actors all.
Yeah, it's a period movie. We built an
That's
internment
good.
camp, and it was a very difficult shoot, but we shot very quickly, and I think it does not look like a small movie.
How long did it take you to write the film once you got started?
Well, the writing process evolved over a couple years, but it took also a long time to get the financing.
Why did it take so long? Because it seemed like, I don't know, something that Americans should hear about. You had baseball in it. You had subject matter that was interesting to the public.
Well, I mean, if you look at the movies out, there's not too many movies like this.
I love this movie. This movie was great, and it didn't end like all sports movies do, you know? It had like this ending that you're like expecting something to happen, and then you start doing all these different things at the end.
We
with
won't
it.
give away the ending, but...
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's a different kind of a action.
Well, I think that's one of the things. It is unique in both the background and the background story is the camps. The foreground is really about family, two different families. One's a guard, the American guard, and his family, and the other is an internment family from Los Angeles.
And the interaction, right?
Yeah, I combined them because I wanted anybody to be able to see this movie and understand it. It's not a history lesson. It's not didactic. It's an entertainment.
So tell us a little bit about the casting. You don't have to just have Japanese people cast in it.
No, we had a real assortment of different types of actors. The parents are played by major Japanese stars. Masatoshi Nakamura and Judy Ong play the parents who are big stars in Japan.
So did they have to come here, or did they live
came
here?
here.
Oh,
No,
they
they
came
came
here.
here.
So did you go and audition them there, or what did you do?
We were very fortunate. We had the casting director who did Last Samurai and major movies.
Oh, great.
So we saw the best people in Japan. We had that, and the American side we had Gary Cole, who from Talladega Nights, and Sarah Drew, who was in Everwood. And
So good.
And for the younger boys in the movie, we had Leonardo Nam, who was in Fast and Furious, and Aaron Yu, who was just in Disturbia.
Right.
So we have a real diverse cast.
But they're all well, the Japanese in the camp were Asians. They didn't have to be Japanese, actually.
In terms of the casting,
Yeah.
I cast whoever I thought was best for the role.
That's what I was wondering. The other thing that I think brought the sports out, and I know we were talking about it before, is this John Kruk.
John
the
Kruk.
announcer.
John Kruk is great. He was a great baseball star, and then he's been on ESPN for quite a while as a commentator. He's a very funny guy. He came in, did the movie. He's the announcer at the ballpark, and he's very funny.
So how did you get him?
Barry, the producer,
Barry got
found
him.
him and brought him
What
in.
about, what did you shoot on? Was that a special kind of...
We shot on Super 35.
Is
We
that
wanted
special?
we wanted it to have the real film. I didn't want to shoot on video. I wanted it to have the expansiveness of film, and also because it's period, it's hard for video to look like period.
Oh, that's why. I see. So that was important.
Absolutely.
What you were doing. One of the things that I thought was interesting was the reaction when it was shown in Japan by the real Japanese people living in Japan who didn't know a lot about this?
Well, the Japanese reaction is quite different because this is a very American story. All the people involved in the story are American, but they look at it from if they had come here as immigrants.
Oh, they were, oh, I see.
So their point of view is quite different.
They were putting
well,
themselves
plus
in
they
there?
know the stars.
Oh,
but
right.
Also, it's a very emotional movie. They like emotional movies, so.
So they really loved it, huh?
It went over very well there. But in a way, it's similar to Letters from Iwo Jima, which is also our movie is with Warner Brothers, which had Letters from Iwo Jima. But they didn't know, the Japanese people did not know that story, which is their own story. And just as the Americans don't know this story of the internment here, which is our American story.
Yeah, that was very interesting, I thought, the way the Japanese and the Americans interacted and watching your film.
Well, that's one of the things about the movie. When I conceived it, I really wanted different kinds of people to be able to look at it, and they would take whatever they'll take from it. But I showed it to a young girl who saw it, and she thought the girl's story, who was a girl going off to college and being in love, that was her story. So that's great.
So everyone looks at it as their own, because it
everybody
does
can
have
relate to it in
family.
their own way. It's really about family. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted it to be about.
Yeah, that's great. What's next?
We'll see.
Oh, we'll see. Are you writing, or are
I'm
you
writing
going to
right
direct?
now. Yeah, I'm writing right now.
And do you do everything in Los Angeles, or do you go out and write?
Well, no, I write here in Los Angeles. I live in Los Angeles, but you direct wherever you can get the
Are
gig.
you still doing music?
I did a little bit of the music for American Pastime.
You played it or you wrote it?
I wrote one of the songs, and two of the other songs I wrote with friends of mine, and the jazz song. So that was a lot of fun. The music's to me, a lot more fun than movies, but movies are my main thing.
But you can't help it, right? You're stuck in the film business.
I'm stuck.
Desmond, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
very much. Thank you.
And thank you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles today. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Great.